the people who were either seeing on screen or whose names we're seeing on screen. So there is no, as of now, there's no public. Nonetheless, I'll make the statement. This is a meeting of the Zoning Commission because we have no public hearings this evening. The public is more than welcome to attend and listen, but there'll be no opportunity this evening for the public to speak. With that, Steve, let's call the meeting to order and do a roll call.
Sure, and I'm just going to shoot the names off on the screen as I see them. Mr. Schulman,
Here?
Mr. Johnson,
Here.
Mr. Sumter,
Here.
Mr. Witherspoon,
Here.
Mr. Cantor,
Here.
Mr. Mancini,
Here.
Ms. Wells,
Here.
and Mr. Goldstein.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order and move on to first order of business, 3-20 SPR, Stone Realty Associates, 27 Sear Hill Road, new 20-space off-site parking lot. Preliminary review, report, and recommended action. And under that, we have 1-18 SPR, Stone Realty Associates, 15 Oakwood Avenue, 4-story, 21,280 square foot innovation center with 15,587 square feet of office, 3,768 research and development, and 3 dwelling units and related site improvements. A request to modify approved plans to remove parking deck, further review, report, and recommended action. Do we have someone here representing Stone Realty Associates?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am Liz Suchy of Carmody Torrance, Sandak and Hennessy. And I do represent the owner, Stone Realty Associates, and have done so for several years. This evening, you'll probably hear from Harry Roachville of McCord Engineering, who I think is online now, as well as Dale Duncan and Brad Benke of McLennan Design. They're in Washington State, and if they're not on yet, they will be. For the purposes of expediency, perhaps we could hear both of these together since they're interrelated. But if that's not your preference, I can certainly go through the modification request separate and distinct from the site plan review application.
No, I think since this is a project we've heard from and about before and have approved, I think it's fine if you combine the two.
That would be fine. Just so that for the record, the property is owned by Stone Realty. There are 2 parcels. One is at 15 Oakwood, which some of you may be familiar with. It's currently improved with a warehouse office building that was built several years ago and a 2-story office building that was built prior to that. There is also now another parcel that my client acquired from the state DOT in September 2019 of about 14,000 square feet, which is at the terminus of Sear Hill Road. As you may recall, when we sought approvals in 2018 for the Innovation Center, my client had made some mention of the fact that he was looking to acquire excess state land so that rather than have to build a parking structure at the 15 Oakwood parcel, he would prefer to build an on-grade parking lot. And that's what's come to pass today. So the site plan review application, which is before you, deals with the construction, use, and occupancy of about that 14,000 square foot land to create a lot that's approximately 20 parking spaces with proper drainage and lighting and landscaping to serve the Innovation Center, which construction will start soon at the 15 Oakwood Avenue location. The parking deck was proposed to be located in the back of the 15 Oakwood Avenue buildings and adjacent to a very nice condominium complex. So both for reasons of cost and also to be a better neighbor, my client acquired the property from DOT and is now proposing that on-grade parking lot at Sear Hill. Part of the proposal also includes extending Sear Hill with a travel way so that my client's tenants, the occupants of the Innovation Center can access the Innovation Center and the parking lot. And last month, you also approved an extension of time for my client to secure the zoning and building permits for the Innovation Center. So this is just the last step in the process. And hopefully, if you deem it appropriate to grant the site plan review application and the modifications, we can move quickly to secure zoning permits and then the building permit and get started. So at this point, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like Harry, if you wouldn't mind to just walk folks through the site plan. And then we can certainly have Brett identify the minor changes known as the Innovation Center. Brad? I mean, excuse me, Karen.
Yes, thank you, Liz. Harry Roscher with McCord Engineering. I believe I have the capability of sharing my screen. Is that correct? So I can pull up the plans?
Yes.
Okay, 1 second.
While he's doing that, I'll remind the commission that we have two ways to go here. One is we can simply approve this as a site plan review, or we can require that it go to a full public hearing.
While Harry's getting squared away, I just want to let the commission know that initially we had filed a plan that had a slightly different configuration for the parking lot. But following review by the city zoning enforcement officer, site planner, and Steve, it was determined that there were some issues with compliance in terms of how that parking lot was configured. So it was revised and redone. And that's why you have a different plan in front of you. It was also determined that we needed to file a site plan review application since it's a separate lot. And also when Harry's ready, just to let you know, the application, excuse me, the proposal also required an application to the Inland Wetlands Agency because they are offsite wetlands. That application was approved in March. So the inland wetland component of this project has been satisfied. Harry?
Yes, I just want to confirm, can you all see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so as Liz was saying, a bulk of the project here is this 20 space offsite parking area that I am showing with my cursor here. Sear Hill Road currently ends right here at this dotted line, so we will be extending it to the parking area. We will meet city DPW requirements until this dashed line here. So the road will be designed per their requirements.
Let me stop you. I don't know if other people are having the same issue. I'm not seeing your cursor.
I agree. You might be able to change the color.
Okay.
While Harry's trying that, I'll just orient you a little bit. Sear Hill Road runs from the left side of your screen, and then it continues north toward the right side of the screen. The roadbed ends on the left side of the screen, and we would extend that roadbed to a travel way that would come up all the way past the entrance to the parking lot. So that roadway is in the middle of the screen, if that makes it any easier to understand. Harry.
Right, and I don't see any options to change the color, so I'll just sort of explain as I go as well. But yeah, as Liz stated, the roadway does end right where the entrance to the condominium complex is on the bottom of the screen, right where it says CB2 and CB number 3. So we'll be extending from there to the arrival court of the HMTX World Headquarters building. With the entrance to the Part 20 space parking area, we'll be providing turnaround for trucks, emergency vehicles. So we'll be greatly improving the hammerhead turnaround that currently exists at the terminus of Sear Hill Road now. For drainage, we will be connecting all of the Sear Hill Road extension to the existing storm sewer system, and everything for the offsite parking area will be brought to its own drainage system that will be fed into a water quality structure first, and then into a underground detention system where it will attenuate peak flows and be released to the east in the direction of the wetlands as it currently does. So there'll be no increase in peak rate of runoff, and water quality will be provided. Also, there is right after this catch basin number 5, there's a flush curb there that'll provide access to the rear of the building where there is a sewer easement. So that access will be provided, and that'll also allow for snowplows to push snow off that way. There'll be its own private sewer connection for the new building to a manhole on Cedar Hill Road. This is the first public manhole that is on Cedar Hill Road that we'll be connecting to. I understand some of it is private, but we will be bypassing that.
Is there a grade separation between the new parking area and the Innovation Center?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Whether there's a grade separation between the parking lot and the building itself?
A grade separation? Is that what you said?
Yes. I mean, is the parking lot at the same grade as the building?
Oh, no, it is lower. As you approach the building, there is sort of a ramp up to the arrival court. And I could give you the elevations here. So the building is at 160 and the parking area is at 150 to 152 as it slopes to the lowest point. And also just to sort of go along the same lines, but we will be extending Cedar Hill Road. It starts at 150, and then it slowly, as it approaches the proposed arrival court, it climbs up to that 158, 160 elevation. There is a little bit of elevation change as you approach the ridge there on the 15 Oakwood Ave property where the building sits. And also, I'd like to know from where Cedar Hill Road will be.
Cedar Hill be public or private?
It'll be, maybe Liz can expand on this. There is an easement that the roadway will be in, and a portion of it will be designed to the city standards. So I believe it will be public for the most part, but if Liz could either confirm or correct me on that.
We're working on the details of that, but we're contemplating it be an easement over a right-of-way that will construct to whatever the standards are that the city wants for this type of roadway. As far as it being an extension of the public street, the city will certainly have the ability to come up. It will plow, we will give it access and provide snow shelf areas. But we're working on the details with DPW as we speak, and we should have those details resolved along with the easement agreement and an easement map.
Thank you.
Right, and along with the along the same lines with the DPW for the turnaround of emergency vehicles that our parking lot will be providing as well for the Hammerhead turnaround. There's a detail shown on our plan on sheet C105 for that. Also, with the grade change that you mentioned, as you approach Cedar Hill, there is some ledge on the left-hand side if you're approaching the arrival court. So as you're driving up, that parking lot will be screened by some existing ledge, and the parking lot will be set behind below it. So you really won't be able to see it until you get there if you're on the roadway. I believe that pretty much covers the improvements for the offsite parking area. I don't know if we want to hand it over to Brad now, Liz.
In just a second, just so that all the commissioners are aware, as is required by your regulations, we did notify all of the abutting property owners of the submission, not only of the first set of drawings, but then again of the site plan and the modification. And that notification went out by certificate of mailing about a week and a half ago. I did receive a phone call from an owner of property south of the land identified as the state of Connecticut, which is left of the parking lot. You'll see it says NF State of Connecticut. We went a little bit beyond that and notified property owners at 25 Cedar Hill. And those individuals spoke to me, I guess Monday, and I provided them with a copy of this plan in case they had any further questions. But I have not received any other inquiries, mail, emails, or phone calls from anyone else who was notified. And it was not only 25 Cedar Hill, but the Condominium Association and individual property owners on Oakwood Avenue as well.
just a question with regard to the parking, and then is there a sidewalk, a connecting sidewalk or anything that comes off of the after parking?
Harry, can you explain yes, there is a sidewalk on the western side. It's adjacent to the new roadway and it's a 5-foot wide sidewalk. That was determined to be acceptable to DPW since there is the rock ledge further west of that 5-foot wide, and it serves not only as a nice demarcation, but also further protection from lights and noise coming from the parking lot across the street to the other owners on the other side. So the ledge will remain, and that 5-foot sidewalk is going to come out of the parking lot and come down as far as we are able to construct it on the property that we own. On the other side, though, Harry, I don't believe there's enough room for a sidewalk just because of the grade difference. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Exactly right. Right. We put on the west side because there is the ledge which you cut into, but on the east side, there's a very steep drop off right after a guardrail down to that condominium complex. So not feasible to have a sidewalk on that side. But as Liz said, from our previous meetings with DPW, they had like this idea of having the sidewalk on one side, and the 20-foot roadway was okay with them. And then the sidewalk does, go all the way up to the parking lot with a crosswalk across, and then a ramp alongside the ramp up into the arrival court. So we'll connect sort of the whole development here. And as Liz stated, we'll go as far with that sidewalk as we can with our construction to allow DPW to connect to it in the future.
Harry,
Yes.
when do you expect construction to begin?
I am not sure on that. I think that may be a question for Liz. I think she said they're anxious to get started, but I'm not sure when what the construction schedule is on this one.
Commissioner Sumter, I don't have a definite start date, but I can tell you that Harlan Stone, the owner of Stone Realty and Metroflor, is very anxious to move forward, and he is ready and able to move forward as soon as the approval for the site plan is granted, the modification request has been granted, and he's ready to go. He'll get his zoning and building permits right away. Just so that you know, the taxes are all paid and up to date. There are no issues with this property owner. And he's looking forward to having this brand new innovation center there to provide not only for his own purposes, but it'll be a great attraction for the city in terms of brand new business use.
Thank you.
So maybe at this point, if you wouldn't mind, could Dale or Brad come on and just walk through briefly the modification changes to the Innovation Center? They're minor in nature, and just while they're coming on, just to give you an idea, in addition to eliminating the parking deck, there's some revision to the configuration of the front entrance courtyard, some additional footpaths, changes to the raised boardwalk in the rain garden area, and some minor exterior elevation changes, but I'll let Brad or Dale walk you through those. But if you have any questions of me or of Harry at any time, of course, feel free to interrupt and ask me. Thank you.
And I'll stop sharing my screen now so one of them can share theirs.
Thanks, Liz and Harry. So this is Brad Banky. I am an architect from McLennan Design. We are the architect of record for the project. I will share my screen. Let's see here. And let me know if you can see this, please.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So as Liz mentioned, since the last time you would have looked at this, there's been really minor changes to the building itself. Most all of the significant changes have come to the site with the addition of the new parcel of land and the parking lot. So our building is north is oriented to the top of the screen now. These are two existing buildings on the property, and the new facility is located on the west side of the property here. The major difference between the main parcel of land is that the previous version we had a circular turnaround as a front entrance plaza. We are now showing basically a rectilinear entrance courtyard that would lead down to the south to the additional extension of Sierra Hill Road and the parking lot. minimal updates on all code related issues. The building height and average grade has not changed since the previous submission. Another major site change or significant site change has just been the addition of some site footpaths. There's, due to building code and egress requirements, we have a site footpath that exits the building on the north side. And we also have a fire access requested by the local fire department on the west side of the building so that they can throw ladders to the west side, whereas their fire trucks would access it from the east existing parking lot and the new south entrance plaza. Also, just minor landscape updates. The landscape design for the main parcel of land has pretty much not changed other than the addition of the footpaths. It's still going to be actually both the new landscaping for the parking lot as well as the landscaping for the main property are pretty similar. We're preserving as many significant trees as we possibly can. We're removing several different types of invasive species and generally just creating a beautiful, lush new landscape with native trees, plants, and pollinators, things like that. The actual architecture of the building hasn't really changed. Standard development to meet building code and coordinate with mechanical, electrical disciplines and things like that. The only exterior change that's worth noting is this is the building again, if you haven't seen it for a while, 4 stories tall, and it kind of spans northways across the site. The only significant change is it used to be an entirely stucco building, which is sort of like a white, in this case, it will be like a white sand texture, whereas now we have a portion of the building that will be a stone cladding. That's really the only significant exterior change. Let's see, we've added some details if you're curious to look through of the roof equipment screen, several different exterior details for the rain garden, enlarged plaza plans, and lots of site features and details that I won't pull up unless there's a need to. And we've also updated our electrical lighting, site lighting plans. Let's see, one of them is on sheet 104 for the main property. Completely zero foot candles of lighting power spilling at the property edge across both parcels. So there's no light spilling off the site. And then the south parcel is on sheet E052. Again, pretty basic site lighting plan with a couple poles and some smaller lights in the parking lot. Again, with zero light bleeding over the edges with full cutoff fixtures. The lighting plans are in the drawings as well as the electrical cut sheets to show the specific fixtures. Again, if anybody has specific questions about those. That's pretty much the significant changes, but I will certainly answer any questions that might come up. We're really excited about this project, so thank you for your time.
Questions from the commissioners?
We don't have anything else to add or anyone else who is going to make a presentation this evening. But if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
I mean, from my perspective, the issue here is the community. As you know, when this was first presented, the commission was really very excited about it. The changes are more than nominal. So the question becomes, should we give the community another opportunity to speak about the project? And the fact that you were only contacted by one person after mailing out the information may suggest that there's limited interest. But I'd like to get the feedback on the commissioners regarding that. Again, we have the authority to approve these things this evening and allow them to move forward. We also have the right to require a public hearing.
My opinion is that these changes improve the plan. I think the parking lot is an improvement over the previous parking structure. It looks like the plan is improved. I think we could go ahead and approve it without a public hearing.
I agree with Galen.
How much time was given to the public to comment?
Well, as I indicated earlier, the first set of mailings went out within 10 days of the initial submission back in March. So that was around March 19th. And I didn't hear from anyone. And then the latest set of submissions, which were filed June 5th thereabout, the letters went out, yes, around June 5th. The letters went out shortly thereafter. So the fact that I received an email and a phone call on Monday, to me suggests that folks knew about it at least the weekend before. And in response to your comments, Mr. Schulman, while I appreciate the fact that the commission has discretion to hold a hearing, I do call your attention to the fact that the parking lot fully complies with all of the requirements of the zone in which it's situated. And since it does, the commission does have limited ability when it's faced with the site plan review application, if it fully complies, to do more than approve with conditions. I certainly would want to hold out hope to the public that by holding a hearing, a parking lot for 20 spaces could somehow be denied. I don't think it could be, I could be wrong. And I do agree with Commissioner Wells that a parking structure in between building A on the plan in front of you and building B is less intrusive and impactful than a parking lot for 20 up at the end of Sear Hill Road. But it's true, it is your discretion to do what you deem most appropriate for the neighborhood, and whatever your decision is, we certainly will abide by it.
Other comments from commissioners?
Well, as it says, the applicant reached out to, I guess, the public in March and in June, and they didn't get a lot of feedback. I don't really see any need to do a public hearing.
The only question I have is for the second round of communications, was it clearly noted what the specific changes were so that people could clearly understand what had been updated? I'm talking about the respective mailings. Like, was it clearly delineated what the changes were in a way that was easy to understand for people?
I can certainly, if you give me a minute, I can certainly pull up the letter and let you know. But to explain, it was indicated that a site plan review application had been filed in connection with a brand new parking lot for 20 spaces, and there were minor modifications to the building that had been approved 2 years ago. And I offered that if anyone had any questions, they can certainly always call me and I would have been happy to share. But the documents are also online on the city's website now, unlike years past. So anyone who had the desire to see what was there and what was proposed, it's now much more easily available. But we did indicate that a brand new application for site plan had been filed and modifications to the existing building previously approved were being suggested.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Steve, did
Liz.
you get any feedback from anyone regarding this meeting?
No, we have not been contacted. As Attorney Suchi stated, we have all the application materials up on the city's page under a folder specifically titled for this application, as well as we've done for several other applications. No feedback, email, phone call.
I would be prepared to vote although this is really probably not minor in a sense, to be considered as minor. I agree with Galen that it's an improvement. I think we all felt when this was presented to us that there was definitely a distinguished piece of architecture. And I think we'd like to see it go forward as soon as possible.
That's my sentiment also. I believe that we certainly can move forward with voting on this parking lot and the improvement. I thought by now I really had driven up in that area looking for the start of the building, and seeing none at the time, I was wondering what was going on. But I guess that had to do with the purchasing of the additional land. Attorney Suchi, was that the reason why you hadn't moved forward?
The land was purchased it closed in September of 2019. And then
Uh-huh.
it took time to create the plan for the parking structure and to revise the plans to eliminate the parking structure. So this
Right.
was as quickly as we could get before you with a filing in March of this past year. I think that's pretty quick considering what we had to do. But in knowing Harlan Stone, I know he would like to move forward very, very quickly.
Steve, there seems to be a consensus that we should approve the site plan. Can we do that in a single motion, or do we need two separate motions?
I think you need to do two separate motions because really there's two actions. One is the separate site plan approval for the separate parking lot, and the second one is just the modifications to the building, which I think those are minor. So just make the distinction is that there's one new site plan application and then the tweaks to the building layout and design.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
Did you guys get a copy of the resolution?
Yes,
Okay.
but I need someone to make a motion that we approve the resolution we received.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution for the
Okay,
additional 20 spaces of side park.
Nate Sumter has moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Rod seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it's unanimous.
Yeah,
Thank you
we-
very much for your time.
Sure.
Now, the second item.
Yeah, we
The-
should do a roll call vote for the next item, just so we keep consistent.
Okay, but fortunately, this was unanimous, so that worked out. Again, a motion to approve the 15 Oakwood Avenue 4-story, the minor site plan changes.
So move.
Okay, is there Michael Witherspoon, is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay, Galen seconded. Steve, you want to do a roll call?
Sure. And this will be voting in favor of the motion. Mr. Mancini,
Approve.
Goldstein,
Approve.
Ms. Wells,
I'm for it. I approve.
Mr. Cantor,
Approve.
Mr. Witherspoon,
Approve.
Mr. Sumter,
Approve.
Mr. Johnson,
Approve.
and Mr. Schulman.
Approved.
Okay, that's also unanimous.
Okay.
It's great.
Next item on our agenda, 10-18 SPR, 19-18 CAM, 64 South Main Street. This is the Clark property. They want a release of soil and erosion control surety bond. Steve, you want to fill us in on that?
Sure. So you recall there was a mixed-use project that was approved, I think in 2019 for that site. I've had several meetings with potential applicants on a new project there. I know that I believe Chairman Schulman had expressed and others had expressed concern that given the very close proximity to the train station, they weren't taking full advantage of the street layout. So I believe that may be new potential operators for the site, and hopefully at some point in the future, we'll see somebody with a new project for that site. But the present or the approved applicant is not going forward, so they've requested a release of the bond.
Seems pretty straightforward. Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll approve.
Okay, Nate
The
Sumter
resolution.
made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who made the second?
Michael.
Okay, Michael Witherspoon, second. You want to do a roll call?
Certainly. Mr. Schulman,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Sumter,
Yes.
Mr. Witherspoon,
Yes.
Ms. Wells,
Yes.
Goldstein,
Yes.
Mr. Mancini,
Yes.
and Mr. Cantor.
Yes.
Okay,
Unanimous.
motion again is approved unanimously. Next, series of items 5, review and action on new applications. These are applicants that are looking for us to move to public hearing. The first one is 3-20 SP 1-20 CAM, 310 Wilson Avenue, Web Construction, new contractors storage yard with outdoor materials storage. Attorney Suchi, I believe you're presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Liz Suchi. I'm a partner at Carmody Torrance, Sandak and Hennessy, and I've represented Web Construction and F&G Construction for several years. The applications that are before you, as were indicated, is a special permit application and a CAM application for a proposed contractor's yard for the storage of processed materials. Steve, would it be possible to have the site plan brought up on the screen? Or Dean Martin, if you're on, could you bring the site plan up?
Yeah, I just need one.
Brian, great, thank you. Well, Brian's taking care of that. Just so that you know, some people have had difficulty finding this site. It is it's a bit of a strange location. It's considered one of the parcels that were a part of a re-subdivision, lot line adjustment, I should say, that Crystal LLC came before you to have approved back in, I think, 2019. This parcel is located off a 50-foot right-of-way that comes out onto Meadow Street. So if you're traveling north on Meadow Street and you pass South Main Street on the left at that stop sign and you continue northbound, on the right will be the old FedEx facility. Just after the FedEx facility, there's a rather wide access way, and that access way brings you to the back where it brings you to the east, where at the end of the access way is the property that's in front of you right now. You'll see at the top of the screen, it says 50-foot right-of-way. That comes out onto Meadow Street. So the parcel that is the subject of the application is about 2.3 acres. It's zoned industrial number 1. Contractor storage yards are permitted. This yard is permitted because the application was filed prior to your action on the moratorium. It is within the coastal area management boundary. So the neighborhood generally, if you haven't been around it, has a variety of industrial uses, including LeBlanc's, LaJoy's, Grasso Construction, F&G, City Carting, and there is DHL down the street, the city bus depot, the transit district bus depot. So there are also residences and multifamily residences generally in the neighborhood. Currently, the property is vacant. There is nothing on it. It used to be a travel way from the north to the south, and the south, and if you're looking at the plan in front of you, it says revised track 3. It's that's what this is, revised track 3. Track 3 continues down south toward 314 Wilson Avenue, which is where Grasso Construction is located. It's off this chart, off this sheet, and it's not part of this application. That is the Crystal LLC Grasso site. So our client has proposed in front of you the use of a portion of the property to store materials that it manufactures and creates at 34 Meadow Street, which is off this site to the right, on the other side of the right of way. If you look to the right of the sheet, there's a square there. Looks like there are parking spaces at the top of the sheet. That is 34 Meadow Street, where Web Construction currently has a fully permitted and approved rock crushing facility, which you approved several years ago. So the idea would be to continue to manufacture the aggregate at 34 Meadow Street, and in addition to storing it at 34 Meadow, to store some of the material in this portion of this 2.3 acre parcel. A few things to note: there are inland wetlands on the site, so we have an application currently pending before the Conservation Commission, and we anticipate action on that application next month. The coastal jurisdiction line, which is the limit of the jurisdiction of DEP, is waterward of where our activity is. So in other words, all the activity and proposed use is landward of the coastal jurisdiction line and then out of the DEP jurisdiction. However, having said that, some comments were raised not only by staff, but also by DEP. And in a spirit of cooperation and civic mindedness, Web Construction modified the plan, and I'll explain what was modified. And that has come about over the past 2 weeks. The proposal before you will have material storage, as you can see, on the western side of this parcel. Excuse me, probably the northern side of the parcel. I get my bearings all mixed up when I look at this, but in any event, At the top of the page is Meadow Street Partners. That's the old city carting property where they store the refuse containers. Between city carting and this parcel, my client's parcel, there would be a concrete block wall to separate the city carting use and our use. As a matter of fact, there's a 20-foot block wall on the property line on the Meadow Street Partners parcel. Toward the property line, moving away from city carting, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 material storage areas. Aggregate would be stored in those areas. They would be separated by additional concrete blocks to separate the different type of aggregate. And then those material piles would be no higher than 20 feet, which is the maximum permitted under your regulations, and they would be covered. There is a travel way on at the end of where those piles would be, so trucks can get to the end. So there's additional distance between the edge of the pile and where you'll see the dark line is going to be. Initially, that had been a 20-foot high concrete block wall. We thought that was most appropriate, but DEP had some other suggestions for us. So in consultation with DEP and also through comments raised by staff, that 20-foot high wall is being removed, and in its place, a lower wall, most of which would be underground with about a foot above ground, would be located to be the demarcation line. Then there would be a fence and landscaping as well. Landscaping has not changed. One thing to note, as I said before, the property is entirely vacant right now. The portion of the property to the left of the screen and off the screen is proposed to be revegetated with native plantings, and that also serves as site stabilization, habitat for shoreline birds and other animals, and provide a better habitat and better conditions in that area, which right now there's nothing. At this point, I think it'd be easier if Dean Martin would mind coming on, and he can walk through the specifics of the site plan, the drainage that's proposed, and walk you through the changes with respect to the initial 20-foot high concrete block wall and what is being proposed today as an alternative.
Liz, before we get there, can you orient us? Where is Village Creek?
Village Creek is off the map on the bottom.
Okay.
There is the additional Crystal LLC property. It says former track 2. That is our abutting neighbor. Then there's Village Creek. Then the Village Creek neighborhood would be even further off the map to the bottom.
Okay, please continue.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Dean Martin with Grumman Engineering. I'll run you through the site plan. As Attorney Suchi explained, this is a material storage yard proposed to be installed in the area, which is currently just a dirt, if you will, a dirt driveway or dirt pad. We're proposing to enclose the material storage with a 20-foot high concrete block wall on the western side of the property or on the storage yard. And on the south side, which is the narrow side to the left of the screen, and along the eastern side of the yard, which is on the bottom of the material yard area, will be a concrete block curb, which will essentially be a 3-foot wide block. It'll be and the block will be approximately 22 inches high. It'll be mostly underground with 8-inch reveal above ground, and on the immediate exterior of the block wall will be a 20-foot high chain link fence, which will have privacy screening attached to it. And then on the exterior of the fence will be a row of arborvitaes, 7 to 8 foot tall arborvitaes and wood chips planted all along that perimeter. On the northern side of the property, which is the entrance off from the adjacent crushing plant, will be a paved area with a tracking pad. And in that area, we've proposed some on-site stormwater improvements consisting of catch basin and oil separator unit, and then some below ground stormwater retention. And that's sized based on the city standards to capture the increased runoff for the site. That's essentially the engineering portion of the project.
Questions from commissioners?
Commissioner Schulman, if I may, Dean, could you just chat about your interaction with the representatives of DEP? I'm sorry for interrupting you, Mr. Schulman, but I just
That's
wanted to
all
make sure we got that on the record as well.
Yes, yes. Based on, some of the comments from the John Goucher from the DEP, he was inquiring as to whether or not any below ground soil testing was performed in the area where we are proposing to install our stormwater retention system. And we did do test holes and some permeability testing in that area. And that information was passed on to Mr. Goucher. And it appeared to, be everything that he was looking for. I did receive a correspondence from him late this afternoon. And he has some suggestions as to potentially installing some select fill below our retention system to improve the soil permeability.
Attorney Suchi, at this point, you have not contacted the neighbors?
No, Mr. Sumter, excuse me. Since an application for special permit in CAM was filed, we are required to notify neighbors, and those neighbors were notified in March when the applications were initially filed. To date, no one is, for whatever reason, no one has contacted me. But since this is a special permit, a public hearing is mandatory, and we, of course, will be notifying neighbors once again. And that will take place within the requisite time period prior to the date of the public hearing. And as you can see from the plan that's in front of you, if you are looking to the left, you'll see Hatch and Bailey, and then you'll see Norwalk Vintage. That's the intersection of Wilson Avenue, Meadow Street Extension, South Main Street, and Meadow Street. So if you pass Norwalk Vintage on the right and you continue on Meadow Street, and then you'll see an opening after the large rectangular building, which used to be FedEx. That's where the arrow is. That's the 50-foot wide access that brings you from Meadow Street beyond, in between the FedEx building, back toward where all the storage containers were for city carting. On the other side of where those containers are, and this is an old photograph, the area where the arrow currently is generally the area of the proposed contractor storage yard, and only a portion of it is what is proposed to be used. That may give you an idea of what's around it. To the north is LeBlanc's. If you continue north from the area that is proposed to the contractor storage yard, there are a variety of other buildings and other users. A lot of it is industrial. But again, Mr. Sumter, I apologize. In answer to your question, whenever you decide to hold a public hearing, we will notify the neighbors by certified mail return receipt requested of the date and time of the public hearing, as is required.
And
Attorney,
as I look at, okay, I was going to say, as I look at this picture now, where is Village Creek?
Village Creek, the residences are off the map. There you go. Now you see where Village Creek is. The green with the houses. Woodward Avenue Park is north of Village Creek. The parcel that we're talking about is north of above the arrow, where the arrow is right now.
Mhm.
Does that area flood a lot?
Dean, I think you'll have to answer that better than I.
No, the elevation of the site is above any flood level, other than the very southern tip of our proposed yard. Our property is around elevation 12 to 13, which is above the 100-year flood line, 100-year flood elevation in this area.
And the purpose of this site would be to store, because I know you say it's outside as opposed to the web construction that went on Meadow Street was inside. So what is the plan to store on the outside?
Well, Mr. Sumter, you're absolutely right. The F&G building at 34 Meadow Street, the building on the interior is used to create and crush the stone. And then there are stone pile storage areas approved outside. This is to just store processed materials from that building. So it gives them greater capacity to store outside. And as I mentioned before, it has to meet the requirements of height of pile, piles have to be covered, and it just gives them a greater ability to store that which they manufacture and create at their 34 Meadow.
So they would store this in between what? When will this get stored there? Or what's the plan in terms of storing the process after it's been processed, prior to? Because what I'm concerned with, just by looking at this, is this when the trucks are bringing in material, are they planning on first dropping it there? Like if they're bringing large rocks, I've seen some construction that's going on further down the street and just in Norwalk in general. And I've seen trucks coming over there. So would this be like a staging area, a dropping area? What exactly, and at what time, and what type of material? I heard you kind of mentioned, but I really don't know what you're talking about in terms of what you really want to store there.
Sure. This would not be an area where raw materials would come and just be dumped in piles to then be processed. The idea is that materials that are to be processed arrive at 34 Meadow Street, are brought inside that building, are crushed and compounded, or whatever the proper terminology is. Then that material is then taken out of 34 Meadow. Right now it's stored outside the building. These other storage areas on this proposed contractor storage yard would be where similar processed materials are stored, not crushing it outside, not storing stuff that needs to be sorted. These are for materials already processed, and they're stored in the appropriate bins depending upon size and type of material. In terms of use, day of use, the 34 Meadow Street and this site would operate general business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 6 at night, Saturday, 8 in the morning till 2 as it does today, and it's closed on Sunday. And it's not for outside contractors or others to come in and dump their load and say, well, we want you to process our load. This is simply for F&G Construction, Webb Construction to process the materials at 34 and then store those processed materials here.
And then they're picked up by trucks at a later date?
That is correct. That is correct. The trucks have about a 15-foot wide travelway between the edge of the lowest portion of the pile, or whatever that, Dean has the phrase, I don't have it, I don't remember it. But there's a travelway between where that 8-inch curb, which is the concrete block that's somewhat underground, that curb and the edge of where the materials are, there's approximately a 15-foot wide travelway. So trucks can bring the processed materials to be stored, and when they're needed to be brought off site to whatever jobs F&G Construction and Webb Construction have, they can then be brought off site and to the job site.
So what condition is this processed material in? Do you have any idea, attorney?
I don't know what you mean by what condition. There's small stones that you'll see. Yeah, it's typical stone. I can call it as aggregate, but if you want me to give you maybe some examples of it prior to the hearings, you have it, you can see it. Maybe that might be the best way to describe what it would be. That's always helpful to me to actually see what the heck this stuff is. But if that's helpful, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, because I don't know what processed material is. I don't know. I'm wondering about the amount of dust that's going to be in this material and just what it is. And because I don't understand the need. What are they doing with it now when it's processed? Where does this material, once Webb have done their crushing, is it now taken away? I'm trying to.
It then goes to various job sites, whether it's state contracting jobs that F&G Construction has or private contracting jobs. It's been used to road projects in Norwalk and elsewhere. It's a typical aggregate facility where the processed material is stored and then brought off site to construction jobs. But if you would like us to give you a better explanation of what those types of materials are, I'm happy to do so.
I think it would help a lot, and because I just don't understand what the process material is. I know they do the crushing, and I'm just concerned with not really having a clear understanding of what and why this material has to now come out of there. Because as you know, the neighbors were very concerned, and I thought that when you guys actually did when Webb did what they did with the enclosed building, it made a lot of sense. And now to hear that, I guess this material has to come out of there. Once it came out, I thought it would be moved on trucks out of the area. But now to hear that this material can come out and then has to come outside again, I'm not clear on it.
Well, that is happening today. The material gets, let's just say you have a large rock. It comes into the facility at 34 Meadow Street. It gets crushed into 1/4-inch rock or 1.25 inches, and then separated out depending upon size. And then it's stored outside at 34 Meadow Street in piles covered by tarps. That storage outside is what is proposed here, not the crushing, not the taking in of the materials and making them into smaller sized rock or other materials. Not outside, no manufacturing, processing, crushing, or other actions such as that are proposed outside. It's strictly to store those materials already processed indoors, and that indoor processing is the only location where the processing takes place.
I think the relevant question is when you proposed the indoor crushing facility, the material that was not sent out immediately was going to be stored on premises, which apparently is being done. What has changed that requires this additional storage space?
I think the short answer is Webb Construction is successful, and it has more projects that require the materials that it produces. And the storage space at 34 Meadow is limited in terms of its location and the height of the piles. It doesn't have piles that exceed 20 feet. It's limited to that. So it does need some more space in order to store the materials that it's processed. But I'm happy to provide a better explanation as to what comes in, what the processing is that takes place, and what the end product is. And if that would be satisfactory, we'll provide that before the next meeting so you have a better sense of how.
Yeah, why don't you provide that to the staff, and the staff will forward it to us.
Absolutely.
One
and
final
other
question of,
before we close, one final question.
I may be wrong, but it would appear from the distance that you may not have a requirement to contact or notify the residents of Village Creek of this project. Can we ask that you do that nonetheless?
You have asked us to do that in the past, and if that is something you would like us to do as a good corporate neighbor, we would be happy to do that. I do know that there have been attempts by representatives of Webb Construction to advise leadership of the Village Creek Association what was coming. I don't believe those attempts were successful, but I would be happy to send a letter to them as I've done in the past.
I appreciate it.
In addition, in addition, you also have Meadow Street. You've got a number of residents on Meadow Street. And what I'm not clear is that I know you want this facility, you want the processed material, but you also have 5 different places where you want to place that. And I'm not clear what's being placed and why you need such a wide area. And you've got them stacked differently, and there must be a reason for it. And that needs some clarity.
That's perfectly fine, and I'm happy to do that. I'm sorry that I was unclear and we weren't specific enough. But those different bins, for lack of a better word, are for different size process, and we'll provide you with. And I think it'd be helpful to maybe I'll bring a few rocks in a bag so you can see what it looks like and get a better sense of how that will work, how the trucks will come in and deposit, how they'll be maintained, how dust will be accommodated. But I'm happy to do that, Mr. Sumter, to make it clearer.
Okay,
Steve, we need to move this to public hearing. You have a suggested date?
Yeah, I think that it seems like your meeting schedule's been no Thursday meeting because of conflicts, and then your regular Wednesday one. So assuming we can meet that statutorily, we'll shoot for your Wednesday meeting in July. Before I say that though, I should double check to make sure that you have one. Do we have, I'd have to look at the calendar because I know we had canceled one meeting in July and I don't remember which one it was. But I can send an email out.
Okay,
I know 4th of July is somewhere around there, so it probably is that first one. I mean, that's my belief. I don't know.
I think we were looking at July 15th, Steve, when we chatted before, but a July public hearing would be perfectly fine.
Yeah, we'll confirm we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Liz, we would just probably ask for just another extension letter just to be on the safe side, just to.
Do you still need one even though the governor's order extended all the deadlines?
I would just to have for the file. I think it's good just to have.
That's fine. I'm happy to do that.
okay.
Okay.
Any other questions from commissioners? All right, then we'll schedule for that July meeting.
Sure, and we'll get that in for other information, Mr. Sumter, to use. And if you still find that it's unclear or insufficient, please have staff let me know, and we'll do what we can to make sure that you're comfortable.
Thank you. And I'll be concerned about the traffic also with
Okay.
particularly after having to have this material placed there and left there. Concerned about the amount of trucks that will be moving through that area.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay well.
You
You
too.
too.
To the same.
Stay strong.
Next item is 4-20 SP, City of Norwalk Board of Education, Jefferson School. Who's going to begin? Alan?
Yes, I am. I just turned myself on. Good evening. I'm Alan Lowe on behalf of the City of Norwalk. I'm working on the Jefferson Elementary School renovation project, and we're looking for a special permit from the zoning commission. The city funded about $33 million probably 2 years ago for renovation of Jefferson School. And Jefferson School was built probably in 1970. I guess Lou may remember that, right?
Just when I moved to town.
And it's one of the school that's newer school, but yet we haven't done anything to that building, generally speaking. And the only major improvement that we've done on that building is probably 2005 or so, when we put a new roof. I just think that generally that's about it. It's a building that's heated by electricity. But then that's the only electric heated school that we have in the system. As you probably know, the city's going through a number of last few years from a study, for facility study, identify some shortage of elementary enrollment seats. And the city has been looking to do about 900 seats. The city has to be looking at a couple of improvements. And previously I came to the zoning commission and got approval to do Pona School. We added a lower school, which is about 450 seats in the lower school. And we're also looking for New Columbus School, but that's a different topic. We went into a number of issues in terms of site issues because the existing Nathaniel Ely Park, it's a park, so we need DEP and National Park Service approval. So that's being delayed. But at the same time, it's part of our strategy. Jefferson School had 10 portable classrooms. So each one's about 20 plus kids in it. So we've always been overcrowded in Jefferson School. And so the strategy here always been is that we build Pona School, lower school, which is a 450 seats capacity. And for the last couple of years, the Board of Education has been trying to reduce the population, student enrollment at Jefferson, so that we can move Jefferson temporarily into the lower Pona School. So they are scheduled to move in there this September from Jefferson to the lower Pona School. And this gives us the opportunity to completely renovate Jefferson School. And what's being presented tonight is that we are looking to build a new gym. The reason being this existing gym is used by the cafeteria as for cafeteria, auditorium, and the gym itself. So it's a complex of use in one facility. So the proposal here we have is to do addition for the gym. And also, if you know the property, there's where the bus drop off is, there's an overhang over it. And that, generally speaking, in today's world, it's not generally speaking acceptable because of public safety. So we're infilling that portion, and we added pre-kindergarten classrooms on the lower level. And one of the other thing that major issue we have in the building is that because of the way it splits in terms of levels, 3 levels, and when you come in the front door, the administration offices are actually on the 2nd floor. So in terms of building control and safety, it's always been a concern. So what we're doing here, this project is we're going to remove all the portable classroom. We're going to completely renovate the building for that's good enough to meeting the 25-year-old standards. And excuse me. And a couple other things we're doing is that the population right now is about a little more than 500. It's going to be between 400 to 420. So overall, the population of school is going to be decreased back to a neighborhood school level. And we also relocating the bus drop-off to the upper portion of the site so that we completely separate bus drop-off versus parent drop-off and versus the teacher's parking. This way, provide the maximum safety needs between the drop-off area and pickup time. Tonight, I have my design teams available to present this. I'm going to have them, if it's okay, if you don't have any question right now, maybe we can go through the presentation. So I'm going to have the architecture team introduce themselves. Mike?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Losasso. I'm an architect at Antonazzi Associates. I'm joined tonight with Lisa Yates, who's our project manager that's running the project for us for the Jefferson Elementary School. And we also have representation tonight from Stantec, who's our civil engineering consultant. And they'll speak to aspects specific to the site development, water quality control, and some of the vehicular revisions that we've made to the site. I think Alan has always, in a very brief but very complete way, introduced the project well. I think the only thing I would add before I'll turn it over to Lisa, or I should say to Stantec, is that we're currently in the design development phase of the project. We expect to conclude that in July of this year. We hope then to continue into construction documents. Those would be completed, ready for bid in early January of 2021. The bidding and negotiation period would span until about March 2021, and then the forecasted construction period for the project would conclude in March of, or let's say March, April of 2022. So with that, actually, I'll ask Stantec to begin to introduce themselves and also the site improvements associated with the project.
Okay, thank you, Michael. My name is Philip Katz. I'm a project manager at Stantec in New Haven, licensed professional civil engineer. So let me orient you a little bit to the project, to the site. The yellow outline shows the site. This drawing has north to the right. So kind of starting from the lower left-hand corner, we have Bedford Avenue. Then adjacent to that is the parking lot for parents. And as you're coming up toward the building, that's the parent drop-off area, current parent drop-off. And then continuing northerly, you see the paved area where it has the parking that goes underneath the school building. That's where the buses currently drop off. It's kind of close to the intersection. And as Alan had said, that it's not a good, as far as security is, to have these vehicles traveling underneath the building. A little further to the north beyond Grandview is the staff parking lot. And then as you come to the rear of the building, you can see those existing portable classrooms that will be removed. There's a playground up there, a couple of playgrounds actually, and some gardens that are located there. Just a word about the site, as far as it is a challenging site due to the topography. as those who are familiar with this area, is a big slope that goes from Van Buren up to Prospect Street. So that's certainly been a challenge in dealing with it from a site perspective. Lisa, if you go to the next slide. So this is the demolition plan. Again, I'll start in the southern corner there by Prospect. So that existing parking lot, we're going to demolish and totally reconstruct that. We're going to look to raise some of that grade so we can kind of even it out. If you're familiar with the site, it kind of comes off of Bedford, dips down, and then kind of comes back up again to the school itself. So we're going to have some excess material from the back as we're doing some of the excavation for the new building. So we're going to use that to kind of raise that grade a bit. We're going to take out the parking and the driveway underneath the existing building, recapture that space, and you'll see on the site plan what we're going to use that for. And then in the back, those existing portables will be removed, and then the playground will be removed and reconstructed. Next slide.
Phil, actually, before you move on, I just want to point out a feature specific to safety. If the commission can see the series of dots, they're essentially little rectangles that run along the length of the parking on the south or left side of the sheet. Those were actually installed as a means of providing a safe travel path for pedestrians on the site, particularly those that come from Bedford and then convey to the main entrance of the school, which is located on the east side of the building. And it's relevant because this school has a very large neighborhood presence and a large walker population. So part of the improvements that Phil will continue to describe, we'll talk about much of the safety aspects, related to pedestrian travel. Sorry, Phil, to interrupt there.
No, perfectly okay. All right, so this is the next sheet is the layout plan. And again, starting in the lower left corner, we're improving the driveways there, connecting into Bedford Avenue. You can see we've kind of reorganized the parking, added islands as necessary. We created an improved drop-off up by the school. We're going to elevate so you can get closer to the school. We've confirmed that, that turning radius will accommodate fire trucks. And so this will allow parents to come in and get closer to the school to drop off. We're going to create a plaza that kind of welcomes students to the building and gets them into the main entrance. And as Michael was sharing, we are creating a separate sidewalk along the west side of that parking area to replace the walkway that's kind of bordered by those concrete blocks. One of the other things that we have in the plan, and it's still to be determined if it will, it'll be within the budget, is some solar panels that'll be in that location there she's showing. You can see this section, which shows what they will look like. They're kind of carport where you drive under it. So we wanted to bring that to your attention. Again, we're looking at budgets and seeing if that can be still included, but looking at improving, having some sustainable infrastructure on the site. See where is it? Okay, so as we keep progressing northerly, we talked about the drop-off area, and then beyond that is the playground area in the front for the younger children. That'll be fenced off and enclosed, but we wanted to segregate them from the older children. We are bringing the north parking lot. We're looking at repaving within the budget. That's just going to be an overlay. We're not changing any grades. And we're going to bring the staff to cross Grandview and then come down the street there, yes, as shown, and then up a set of stairs to get to the main entrance. The building plan will infill underneath that existing bump out there, so they won't be able to get up through there, and that's why we created another way to get there. Both of these parking lots will be lit We're putting new lighting there, all LED lights, 16-foot head, with the 16-foot pole with the cutoffs. So there's no light that goes into the neighbors' properties. So as we're continuing counterclockwise coming up Grandview, we're going to reconstruct that loading area, just clean it up, kind of repave it, put a ramp so it's easier to get materials into the school building. Then as you're coming up Grandview, we're going to create a new driveway, and that's for the bus loop. Again, that'll be gated, so it'll only be open during drop off and pickup. The rest of the time during the school day will be closed, so there will be no vehicle, pedestrian issues while the kids are in school. We're going to create some playgrounds in between that bus loop, and then keep going easterly. You can see the addition, the gym addition, kind of tucked in there by the building. We'll have sidewalks outside so they can, as they get dropped off of the buses, they can congregate and then get into the building that way. The next slide. This is the grading and drainage, and looks like a lot of lines, and I'll save you some of the details of it. But what the plan has been designed is to retain the runoff on site. A lot of it's going to go to the lower parking lot because the upper has some rock issues and whatnot. So we're going to do what we can in the upper lot, but then bring it down to the lower lot. We're treating the water quality volume as well as the water quality flow. The peak flow will be reduced from the site, and it's been designed in accordance with Norwalk's drainage manual. I think that's all that I had to share on the site. Oh,
Lighting.
Yeah, the lighting. These are just what the lights will look like. Again, it's a 16-foot pole, LED lights, full cutoff. So it'll provide, a safer environment without lighting up the neighborhood.
One other aspect that I'd like to touch on, Lisa, I don't know if you can revert back to one of the site plans. The separation of the parking to the lower level and the bus loop to the upper level was another deliberate safety aspect. Phil has already described it, but the parent drop-off occurs on the lower level. There's some associated parking there as well, and the bus drop-off happens at the upper level. And after the school is occupied, or during, when school is in session, visitors would only be allowed to enter the building at the lower level. And Lisa will begin to walk you through the building and describe some of the safety features that have been incorporated in the new school associated with the separation of the public entrance.
Okay, so here's a 3D isometric view of the building. This is the front entrance on the east side. We were also able to, as they were saying, to fill in this area underneath the building, which is also a safety aspect. You don't want to have a truck or a vehicle be able to drive underneath the classrooms. And up above, this is the new gym addition with its own entrance to serve the bus loop. Yeah, we also have an alternate for a new stair to provide a potential connection both from this space, which is currently it's actually a multi-purpose room, which is the gym, cafeteria, and auditorium, and it will in the future only be cafeteria and auditorium. So they often stage children in here, and this stair is to help get them outside for play and bus. We are showing screening on the roof. In a minute, I'll show you proposed PV panels for the roof as well. So this is a view from the northwest side. This is the gym addition as well. The total height of the addition above the average grade plane is around 45 feet. But as you can see, this is a good way to look at the really extreme grade change, 2 stories from the lower level up to this terraced area in the back. The gym itself is roughly 30 feet above its own grade plane. But it is the highest point of the building, which gives us the technical 45 feet. So this is a proposal for a photovoltaic array on the roof. We'll work at the financials of this, but we wanted to make everybody aware that this is under consideration. And these would fall largely outside the mechanical and screened areas. I'm going to briefly take you through the floor plans. This is the first floor plan. This is the main entrance at the east side. One of the things we were able to do when reconfiguring this building, we were able to move the entire administrative wing, except for a few offices, to the first floor, which is very good for the security. We have a separate man trap area entrance. Everybody goes through the office. We have pre-kindergarten and kindergarten on this wing, first grade on this side, and some mechanical and receiving area on the north. The second floor, we've tried throughout this school to make the spaces flexible for the future, and so rooms are standardized. Even these smaller rooms are designed so in the future it wouldn't be too hard to remove these walls if needed. This is we call it the cafetorium now that it's because it's the cafeteria, and the auditorium will be equipped with a new kitchen. This is the potential alternate for another stair. And then at the third floor, this is the cafetorium below. So we go up in grades. The second floor was second and third grade. The third floor is fourth and fifth grade, but the configuration is very similar. And then one of the features of the new gymnasium addition is that it's easily locked from the rest of the school, which could allow for community use of the gym without having people go the whole way through the inside of the school. I can show you a couple of building sections. Oh, sorry, roof plan. The roof plan, I think, is sort of iterative of the isometrics, but so this section here is cut east-west looking north. So this is the gymnasium area above. And then this is the entrance is in this general area. So that's about it for the presentation. I can easily back up if, to address specific questions.
Yeah, just this is Alan again. Closing, I just wanted to say that Jefferson is going to stay in the Poner School for 2 years, starting this fall to fall of 2022. Then they move back, and once they move back, the actual gaining of student seats actually happens in 2 years from now. So of all the effort that we go in to create a space for elementary students, it takes a long time. I mean, again, Poner's going on for like 2 years now for construction. And then we got to wait 2 more years in order to work on Jefferson, in order to gain any slots, open space to meet enrollment issues. So anyway, so I guess we're open to any questions that the commission may have.
Questions?
No, not me.
Alan, what action are you looking for from us tonight?
I would defer that to Brian and Steve, I guess. We're asking for special permits.
Yeah,
to require
go to a public
schedule.
hearing. Yeah, to schedule a public hearing.
Lou, I have 2 questions.
Go ahead.
How much capacity did you say this is going to add to the school?
This project actually does not add any capacity to the school system. It's really it's a bonus that's going to add enrollment. So what we did is that we spent about $43 million on bonus, and we finished by August this year. So we renovated existing bonus. We created a lower school at bonus. The lower school has about 450 seat capacity, but we're using that as a swing space for Jefferson.
Gotcha. So it'll shift around.
Right. So the net gain is actually doesn't happen after we finish bonus. It actually happened when Jefferson finished.
Right. That makes sense. And then the other thing was, I love that you were thinking about the solar in the parking lot and the on the roof potentially. I think it's great that the city's sort of taking the lead and leading by example on that. How much capacity are you thinking you'd get out of the roof capacity and the parking lot?
Since you mentioned solar, I don't know the answer for you, so we can get it for you.
Okay.
But I don't want to take up too much time, but I do want to explain something here. The way solar works for the city is that financially, the city do not buy the system. We actually lease the system because we actually work with solar developers and release the system for solar because they get tax credits. City as a not taxable entity, we can't get tax credit. In order to make it financially feasible to do solar system, we had to go privatize. So we actually, the solar piece, it's actually a separate project from this project, but we are designing this building with all the capability in terms of electrical closet, the space and conduit run to the roof and stuff. That's all planned for the building. So at this point, and then, you know, there's still negotiation with contract with the solar company. At this point, the probability of the solar happening here, I would say maybe 90%. So there's still like 10% because it's all financial issues. So there's 90, I would say 90 to 95% chance we're gonna have solar on this roof. We are having it narrowing right now, and Polnus we're finishing up, and we have a draft contract with the solar developer already. So this would be our third school that we will look at solar. And the other thing we've been asked to do is consider carport solar panels. We proposed here and so I want you to let you know that there's about 90% chance that does not happen. Basically, it's economics. What happens is that when you put a solar system on a roof, it's basically a rack system, balance it down, and that's it, right? So there's no really structure to it. But when you do a carport system, you got to build foundation. You got to do a system, a support system, cantilever out. All that add a lot of capital cost to it, which they have depreciated in 20 years. So the initial number we're getting is basically a break even. So we got to look at feasibility. Do we want to do it as a, even though we're not saving any money, do we still want to do it? Or, and also the other problem I have physically is that we have to put the retention system in the ground. And that's the place we can put it, in the parking lot. But at the same time, if we're going to put the panel and foundation, it creates a problem in terms of designing issue. So for your information, there's probably, I would say 90% chance, 95% chance that we will not do it, but we want to keep this option open to us as we evaluate, because they have to go ZRAX, which is from Eversource, to see what the financial incentive we get.
No, that background is really helpful. I appreciate that, Alan.
Thank you.
Alan, we do actually have, I'm sorry.
The rooftop system preliminary figures we received from the solar company we've been working with are 120 kilowatts.
That's the peak generation, and the building peak use is about 400 kilowatts, to give you a sense of what kind of offset the PV might provide.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah. Nick, just one. I'm sorry. I just love to hear myself sometimes. No, I just want the zoning commission to hear me about something. You know, a part of zoning regulation requires the rooftop unit to have a screening, right? When we do a solar system, I think the zoning commission should look at zoning regulation in the future to how that affects solar system on roof, because the solar system basically it's about 4 to 5 feet high. So in a sense, it's covering part of those mechanical equipment already. And also the solar system is part of mechanical. Do you have to screen that? That's another question. But once you put screening around those units, you create more shadows. It reduces our ability to maximize the roof area. So again, this is a sidebar on our request, but but we're showing the screening, we're showing the solar system. At some point we have to work that out. But the zoning regulation at this point doesn't help us address that, because we're still required to put screening in front. Meanwhile, you create shadow lines. We got to put less panels. But technically, is the screens will cover the solar panel also? I don't know. So anyways, this was something the zoning commission needs to look at in the future.
Well, just to comment on that, Alan, it's not going to help with this project.
Right.
But the commission is in the process of hiring a consulting firm to help us rewrite all of our zoning regulations. And one of the items that several of us feel is important are environmental issues like this. The use of green infrastructure at this point in time really needs to be written into the code. So that may not be so far away. Maybe shortly before you retire.
One other thing, Alan, with regard to the solar panels that you're considering, and it seems to me that because you do have other structures on that roof. Wouldn't that be something that you could work out with your architects also? Or at least get them to consider how you might incorporate the paneling and also have other structures on that roof. I know you're talking about because some things have to be covered, but it seems to me like with a good architect or a good architectural firm that you should be able to incorporate both with some design planning.
Let me answer the question. I mean, I think we have a good architect, right, Mike?
If you say so, Alan.
I gotta look at it this way. I think we gotta take it project by project. I think at Ponus School, we actually put in the solar system on the new portion of the building only. When you renovate existing building, you are limited by the existing conditions, whether the mechanical unit on the roof and how much area, and you can only change the design of the mechanical system so much because otherwise you got to tear everything out, and it depends on what you do. So with the existing building, if there's mechanical system in the roof and location, all the duct works and piping go to that location, we're not going to just for additional solar panel, we're going to relocate and move everything around. But on Ponus, when we designed the lower school, which is a new building, we directed the architect to be very sensitive to maximize the area for solar panel. So you can turn the unit differently so that create less shadow, and that's what we were doing. And we can centralize, not centralize it, but put it aside the building so that you leave more put more the north side of the building and things like that. So there's consideration in structurally designing the building as well as placement of mechanical system on a new building. When we renovate an existing building, there's certain limitations. So this building does not have a lot of stuff on the roof. Basically, it's two portions, but at the same time, we are sensitive to that. So I just wanted you to know that we think about those things. But certain times, it's like the gym. If you look at the drawing now, there's a shadow line that go over it. So I mean, it's a bit, and then there's a tree line on the bottom. I believe that's the reason why there's no solar panel on that portion of the roof, because it's the tree is shaded that portion of the roof. That's why there's no panel on the lower left side of it. So all those things get into play. So for a new building, we have more flexibility in terms of mechanical design. For old building, it's less. So we are aware of those issues.
Other questions from the commissioners? Steve, any comments?
No, nothing for me. Brian staffed this application, so I don't know if he has anything additional to add.
No, I'm all set.
I'm sorry, Brian.
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
No questions.
Now, Alan, you've asked not to have to do a traffic study because the volumes for the traffic volumes for the new school are actually going to be lower than they are for the current school. Is that correct?
That's correct. And also we're bringing the bus loop further away from the intersection, which helps the intersection more. We actually submit this for the state, and the state, even though this is on Van Buren, which is part of the Route 1 system, they're not requiring us a traffic study. Again, yeah, exactly what you said, because the population we dropped from 500, actually before you had more than 500, it's probably at 550 or so. So right now it's about 500, we go down to 400. So in terms of parent drop off, they go further reduced from what we have now. So, I mean, we are trying to save a couple of bucks here because it's just a traffic count and things like that for a project that's designed to reduce population and improve access.
Steve, we have the authority to take that action, not require a traffic study?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's a reasonable request based on the proposal.
Okay. Then a date for a public hearing is the next item.
Yeah, I think we follow the same path as the previous application. They would be on the same schedule.
So we'll have a second public hearing, assuming that meeting's July 15th, a second public hearing that evening?
Correct.
Okay. The commissioners all comfortable with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Then you'll be on the agenda for that July meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the screen is much less complicated now. Update on the East Norwalk TOD. Stephanie's not here. Steve, you're going to report?
Sure. I think I emailed out the link or, a drop-down
Yes,
file.
thank-
You could pull the plan off. We did get the plan posted on the Norwalk Tomorrow page today. We have a public presentation of the plan scheduled for July 1st, and we're going to try to do one. That's an evening one. And we're going to try to do a daytime one as well. We're getting close to that 4th of July holiday, so we're trying to figure out whether we're going to affect people's travel plans or not by that. So we're going to work on that, work on promotion of that. I expect there will be some public pushback from a core group in that area that does not want to see some of the changes we proposed. I think, the changes we proposed are pretty modest and, for a TOD area on a main line to main Metro North line. And I think, we've made the case why we're proposing what we're proposing. Basically, in a nutshell, that East Avenue stretch from the train station up to 95 looks the way it is because of those existing zoning regulations that really constrain you from doing anything else. So there's no incentive for anybody to improve their property. So I think what we've put in place hopefully will, spur some growth and development and really enliven that area. And when we're cognizant that there are issues with traffic in that area now, we're hoping that the street improvements that get implemented as part of the Walk Bridge program, as well as the East Avenue widening, will ameliorate a lot of those concerns.
Okay, industrial zone study?
Yep, that got, the consultant UTIL was approved by the Common Council a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now. The law department is getting very close to completing the contract language. I exchanged emails with them about an hour ago, and hopefully that will get out to UTIL to review. I was targeting July 1st for a start, and I actually shocked that I get on time this go around. So hopefully that's the case.
Okay. The zoning regulation RFP. We're actually
Yeah,
queue, isn't it?
Yeah, I apologize. I got this out a couple of days later than I wanted to. I don't expect you to give me any, thumbs up at this point tonight. I think what we can do is if hopefully everybody has a chance to review it, I can always pull it up on my screen if that's helpful for everybody or not. What I was thinking we could do, we have a special meeting next week to go over the second round of the North 7/BLT proposal. I think we can add that item to the agenda as a follow-up. I don't think the conversation would take too long, but I'd like to get that out into the public domain in July and get a consultant on board sometime in August, and so they can hit the ground running hopefully sometime in September. I think the timing of that works well with the industrial zone study also. But if anybody had questions, comments on if you had a chance to look at the document, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions now.
I had one question. I really like the preamble at the front, the sort of what we're trying to aim for. Do we want to include anything? I know the POCD talks a lot about choice of housing options and different ranges of living. Do we want to include anything of that in the top? I wasn't sure if the comment about equitable to our residents was meant to capture that. I read that more as like it's a fair zoning versus something that sort of encourages all sorts of development.
Yeah, we can do that. That yellow section in there where it talks about the equitable piece, I rewrote that about 40 times, and I had housing in there once, so I'm happy to add a bullet about that. And I've been on a bunch of different webinars and meetings about fair zoning practice in the state, potential reforms. So that, I think there's a segment in there that, I think one thing I want to do prior to us starting this reg rewrite is looking at our, it's that kind of spot that we allow between like the low, like a 2-family to like a 6-family type development, which we have in a couple zones. And I want to kind of look at the available land area and see how that's built out. And that might be something we need to consider as part of the zoning rewrite, but I'm happy to put a bullet in there about housing.
Steve, why don't we put this back on the agenda for our meeting on the 24th? And we can have a conversation. By then, all of us would have had an opportunity to review the document and we can share our comments.
Sure, and I'll add that bullet. And if anybody else has any other comments or inclusions, you can let me know now or always email me and I can send out another version of this. I'm not sure what day the 24th is, but I can get it out a few days ahead of time if you want another chance to review.
That sounds good. Okay. Approval of the minutes from the June 1st meeting. And I have a motion.
So move.
Okay, Nate moves. Is there a second?
Second,
I'm sorry, who seconded?
me, Mike.
Oh, okay. Mike seconds. You want to do a roll call, Steve?
Sure, certainly. Mr. Schulman,
Approved.
Mr. Johnson,
Approved.
Mr. Sumter,
Approve.
Mr. Witherspoon,
Approve.
Mr. Cantor,
Approved.
Ms. Wells,
Approve.
Mr. Goldstein,
Abstain, I was not present at that meeting.
Mr. Mancini,
Frank, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I would like to, I'd like to abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay,
and that is everyone.
okay. Minutes are approved. Any comments from commissioners?
Just one comment, but it's really a positive comment. Glad
Oh,
to
we want to
see,
hear it.
glad to see paper again. You know, I
Yeah.
know we've been,
Oh,
I know there's probably some trees that have something to do with this, but I'm happy to see this. Thanks for the delivery.
yeah, for some of us stuck in our ways, paper materials are easier to read than online.
You got that right. Yeah.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay, Nate,
Second.
Josh seconded. We could probably just do this by acclamation. All those in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. All right, so we meet again on the 24th. Until then, everybody stay well.
Yes.
Stay well,
I
everyone.
just
Take
have
care.
one
Be
more
well.
comment.
Take care.
When is City Hall opening? Are we gonna open anytime soon, or it's gonna be a long time? Anybody know?
Steve might. Steve,
What was
any
that?
update on City Hall opening to the public?
I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I think they're going to move by appointment first. And then I think they probably will wait until there's some sort of assurance that there's a vaccine or something, would be my guess. I'm totally guessing.
Okay.
2021.
Could be.